People disappear without a trace all the time. Maybe you've wondered what happens to them. Here's a true story of what almost happened to me. In my teens, I was hiking in a land management area between two Finger Lakes in upstate New York. There were open fields punctuated with patches of new-growth aspen trees covering a heavy undergrowth of briars and neck-high weeds of all kinds. It was a beautiful autumn day, and I was AWOL from my studies back in a stifling, ivy-covered stone building a rather large number of miles away. It was late afternoon. As I passed one particularly thick, verdant, and expansive patch of aspens, I heard a type of sound I had never heard before in the wild. It was a baffling, pulsing complex of sharp clicks, like metallic popcorn. Seemingly intentional, individual, distinct, sharp snaps, each like one of those clicking cricket toys that used to be so common. Bunches and successions of percussive reports intruded upon by short, startling silences. Every moment, it seems like you could almost figure it out, but there was simply no sense to be made of it. If you had told me it was a bunch of tin soldiers tap dancing on a metal roof, I couldn't have disproved you. There was no way I was not going to find out what that sound was, which turned out to be much tougher than you might think. The thicket was exactly that, thick. I dropped to the ground and began crawling through the infinite number of woody stems ranging from pencil thin up to 2 or 3 inches in diameter. The density was like a cedar tree covered in sawbriars. I slithered and stalked like a tiger through the banyans. There were times I got so tangled up I had to backtrack and twist around in a completely different direction. After many minutes, it got darker and darker, and the clicking slowly seemed to be coming from everywhere. Eventually, I got to a place where I could stick my head out of the cabbage into somewhat more open air. And there it was, a comprehensible yet magical world, as if in a grand cave chamber in the center of a leafy green mountain. There were 50 or 60 of the cutest, plumpest little piglets you could ever have seen. Some were black and white, some were brown with spots, some were all one color, some were tan with beige splotches. They all had pink baby elephant ears and cute little curly piglet tails. And they were at peace, like in storybooks. They were eagerly and systematically chomping on the copious wild cherries dropped from an interior cherry tree patch. The clicking sound was coming from piglet incisors slicing through the wild cherry pits. Each slicing sound was as pure as a chisel through a diamond. It was at the exact moment that I realized that fact, what the clicking was, that I heard and felt the punishing, forest disintegrating mass of an approaching locomotive close at hand. I feel and completely unconditionally assured when I tell you that if I had not spent half my boyhood rapidly and efficiently ascending hickory and ash saplings in good order in the foothills of the Smokies in order to ride them down from maximal height, I would today be a grown-over smudge on the mossy earthen floor of a now grown-up forest closer to Seneca Lake than to Cayuga Lake in upstate New York. As it was, I instantly transported myself to the none too stable top of a none too tall 2-inch diameter sapling with two, count them two, extremely irate car-sized sows gnashing savage fangs at my heels as I struggled to keep the sapling from dipping me back to the forest floor. I can still see the justice in those 4 untroubled eyes, the wolfish savagery in those lashing tongues. I can still feel the vibration in the slender trunk from those immense bodies, either rubbing or gnawing on the thin cylindrical base of my savior sapling. If they had got organized, they clearly could have gnawed the tree down or simply bowled it over. If they had even gotten up on their hind legs, I think they would have got me. But they didn't. Then there was silence. There was absolute silence. I don't know how they did it. I could no longer see giant heads or massive hairy backs, no little piglets. The whole entourage had vanished. I held on and stayed up there for quite a while, ridiculously hanging in the air, a short but crucial distance in the air, in the middle of a tranquil forest. When I did decide to descend, I suppose, to make the story better, I could say I threw my legs out and vaulted myself down in sprightly fashion like we boys used to do in the old days in the Smokies. I didn't do that. I shinnied straight down like somebody thoroughly quelled who didn't know how to climb a tree at all. I checked the heel of one shoe where I thought one of the monsters had nicked me, but it was okay. In Tennessee, when you encounter a bear by surprise and you stop running, you can often hear the bear running through the brush in the opposite direction. Not here. I had only a vague inkling of which direction those massive beasts had chosen to disappear in. I was left alone in a clearing in a forest where the floor was littered with splots of purple from a huge autumn fall of wild cherries. My own spot could have been among them. They say that pigs eat everything, the belt buckle, the teeth, everything. If I hadn't had my boyhood training, that instinct, rapid ascent up a slender trunk, and the ability to attain maximal height before riding the slim treetop to the ground, some of those disappearances without a trace you read about, they may not have had that kind of training. Either you did or you didn't. Either you're here to tell the tale or you're not.